At a recent African Business Leaders Forum, which was held here in Sandton, Tumisho Grater sat down with Nomonde Mabunda, who is the Managing Director of Sweet Pea Consulting, about business confidence in South Africa.
Business, generally, it takes tenacity, eh? And being in business, especially when you start up in that process of starting up a business, yes, of course, it is difficult. But as I mentioned earlier on, that it takes tenacity. But when you're pushing beyond those barriers and limitations, then it becomes easier with time, though. The only thing about business is that it becomes easier with time. But in the beginning stages, yes, of course, it is difficult.
Obviously, you've been sitting in some of the conversations that have been taking place, African leadership on the continent, the role of the private sector and what they can bring to the table in terms of advancing Africa's agenda. What have you taken away?
What I've taken away is that there's hope that the private sector is coming into helping and bringing along economic change in Africa as a continent. And the other thing that I've picked up this morning was that we, as Africa in its entirety, we've been going in silos. Each and every country has been doing their own thing, but now in one voice, we're looking at working together as the private sector to making sure that we're going ahead as a collective, as one group that is bringing about the change of the economy in the continent, not just in particular countries.
Being in business, what would be the one thing that you would love to have to be changed, rather whether it be legislation that would make you operating in this industry a lot easier?
I would like that when we're looking at SMMEs, I'd like, especially in South Africa, that the laws for SMMEs should be different for medium and big businesses, because if you're looking at the tax, it's the same thing. If you're looking at the processes, everything is the same. And we're not taking into consideration that there's lots of hurdles when it comes to startup businesses. So what I think is that the legislation should be a little bit relaxed when it comes to SMMEs, and then with time, then make sure that they're getting into that place. But now it's making it difficult, and most companies are closing in that start-up stage because of the legislation in South Africa when it comes to businesses generally.
Everybody's talking about the low economic growth. What impacts is this going to have on you?
You know what, I always say it's whatever you think, whatever you say, that is what you are. Now what happens is that there is low economic growth, of course, but what do you do about it? As entrepreneurs, we're supposed to be diverse, we're supposed to be innovative, we're supposed to be coming up with new things. But now, if I'm just looking at the negative and not coming up with any strategies and plans, then definitely I would give you a negative feedback. But if I'm saying I'm looking at that, but in that I'm looking for opportunities and I'm looking for ways of diversifying in my business, then I could give you other means and positive feedback. So it depends entirely with how are we taking it. In business, other people got into business only because they were unemployed, only because they didn't know what to do, and they decided to start businesses. But other people are entrepreneurial, and those people that are entrepreneurial are the ones who would say, this is the situation, what do I do? And fortunately, I would think of myself as one of those, that I look into the situation and want to come up with solutions when it comes to that, and not put it as a barrier, because otherwise we always give up in life. You always give up, even if you were a professional, you definitely give up if you look at things like that.
So coming up with opportunities where others see problems.
Definitely.